So tonight we are focusing on the last HTML tag before we start the design proper. Remember what I told us is we have been mastering our HTML basic tags and also CSS fundamentals before we start relating them with our proper design. So tonight we are focusing on one of the most important HTML. So like I was saying, we are focusing on one of the most important HTML tag, which is called form. So we are looking at how to design HTML form. So before I define form, let me quickly create a different file just for all that we are going to learn tonight. So let me create, and I'm going to name it form.html. So let me activate my basic HTML. Oh, this name is not correct. So to change it, HTML. So let me activate my HTML basic file structure. So like I said, we are looking at one of the most important HTML tag, which is called form. So let me use comment to explain this. So our main topic tonight is HTML form design. HTML form design. HTML form design. So I'll start with what is HTML form. So HTML form is used to collect users' inputs, and the information will be later processed to the back-end database. So for us to have a proper understanding of what the form represents in a web page, we need to capture the back-end database so that we have an idea of where will those information be sent to. In fact, one of the major reasons why we have the back end of a website is because of the presence of the form. Because anytime you create form in your web page, there is need for you to create a database where those information that the form will collect from the users will be submitted into. So that is why I define form as an HTML elements which is used to collect users' input to the back-end database. Form is one of the most complicated elements. If you notice what we have been doing so far, heading tag, they are very simple to work with. Paragraph tag, they are also very simple to work with. Image tag, they are very simple to work with. When it comes to form, you need to pay more attention because the design of your form determines how people will be encouraged to fill it. So there are some websites you visit if the form is not well designed, if the form is not user friendly, some persons may not want to fill it. So form is a very crucial element that every developer must take his or her time in order to come up with something good that can encourage users to fill. So we are going to quickly talk about the form elements. Now, before we talk about the form element, let me quickly show us how do we declare form. So let's say HTML form declaration. how do we initiate it? To declare form is to quickly type form as a tag. Now, anytime you create a form or you declare a form tag, it comes with this action attributes. But at the moment, we are not focusing on the role of that action attribute. So we also have another attribute called method post that I am not going to talk about now, but I just want us to know that they are all associated with form. So if I may just give us a clue to what this attribute is going to be used for. This attribute action is what we be used to reference a PHP scripts that we handle the data the form will have collected into the database. So we are going to nest that PHP file URL here. That is, once the user fill in the right data and click on submit, an action will be triggered. And the action, what will happen, will have been programmed with your PHP or in PHP scripts. So that is why for now, we have not started looking at PHP as the back-end development language. So that is the reason why we're going to be leaving this blank. Now, the method called post is a processing method which is used to handle or send data to a sensitive database or server. So for now, we are not considering it. Now, I talked about container elements like div, form, header, footer. All these tags, they are used to group set of what elements. So form is a container element. That is why as soon as you have declared it, I am going to expand it. So which means that what any other content that comes in here in between the opening section of the tag and the closing part of the tag is referred to as form elements. It's referred to as form elements. Okay, just like your table, after declaring table, we use our th, tr as the table what element. So other form, other tag that are connected to the usage of the form tag, so long they are declared inside the form tag, they are referred to as what? Each element. So what are these form elements? We have a lot of them, but the one that is more important or most recognized is called the input element. The input element. So the first thing I want us to understand is to understand that input element. So the input element is what generates the box that allows users to input their data. So we have it in different type. So it is the main form element that is used to collect the user's input, but it can be manipulated to collect different data from the user. That same input can be used to collect dates from the user. It can be used to collect the user's photograph. It can be used to collect the user's name, that is text. It can be used to collect the user's phone number, that is number. It can as well be used to collect the user's password, the user's email address. All of these that I've mentioned, they can be collected with the input tag. So that is what makes it the most important form element. So now we need to have sketch the user interface of the form we want to develop as the standard process so that you know the input that will be involved. But I am going to walk us through how to come up with a simple contact form. Now, learning form, you start from basic and then you go intermediate and then you go advanced. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is that just to give us a picture of what I am planning to achieve. So I need a form. I need a form just like this. So I'm trying to sketch what I want. And then here I'm going to write, let's say what, contact form. I'm going to write contact form so that whoever is filling this form knows the role or the function of this form. Now, this form has label, that is what tells the user on the type of data they are to submit or to impute in the boxes. So that is called label. Now, that same element I am referring to as label can be also referred to as the form what? Description or field description. So let's say I'm going to have the person's name here. Person's name will come in here, and then I'll provide a text box for the person to what? To write in his or her name. Then I'm going to have the middle name. Let's say this one is first name. I'm going to have the middle name of the person collected as well. So I will also provide a text box for me to receive that input or that data from the user. Then I will also collect the person's what? Date, so that when it's finally submitted to my backend, I will know exactly when this input was collected from the user. And then let's say I'm working with these three input for now, but in my coding, I am going to exceed this. I just want us to have a picture of how the form look like. So of course, I'm going to have a button which will be named submit. So the role of this button is what will trigger the action. So at the end of the day, when the user click on this submit button, a request, an action will be, triggered. So then we must have created a PHP file. We must have created a PHP file that will handle this data the user must have processed or imputed. So once the user click on the submit, it will call the PHP file. And in the PHP file, we must have created variables that will take each of these inputs that the user must have provided and then send them to the backend database. So this is a kind of communication that happens before within the HTML form and the backend database. Okay.
So please.
So I was actually trying to give you the picture on the outcome of what we actually want to develop. So I'm going to leave this image here. Now, I want to replicate this. Like I told you, I'm going to exceed this. I just want you to understand how form look like. We have already declared the form. Now, for me to code where I have contact form, I need to write a tag called field set. Field set. So the field set is another containing or container elements, which is expected to group all our form elements. So it is the field set that will create this line that you are seeing. Okay, so if I go to the front end now, let me preview the front end so that we can start seeing some of the results. So you can see that the field set actually what created these lines that you are seeing. So which means that what? All the form elements will be grouped within that field set. Now, the next thing is to write the contact form within the field set. So I'll come in here and say legend. So legend is another form associating tag which is used to describe the form, to give the form a description, just like contact form as indicated. So I'll quickly write contact form. So if I go back to the front end now and check, you can see that what you have, given the form a title called what? Contact form. Now, the next thing is for me to write this particular first name and also create the box. So like I was trying to explain, this first name is called the label. It's called the label, while this is called the input. It's called the input. So anywhere you see boxes like this, they are usually created with the input. So this one is going to have type, input type, based on the kind of data you want to receive from the user through it. This is going to be text. This is going to be text. So here type will be equals to this. So you can see that the same input but receiving different types of what? Values. So now to replicate that, see what I'm going to do. I'll come here, I'll say I'll create a div because ordinarily the input tag is an inline element. And one of the attributes of inline elements is that they tend to be written on the same line. Okay, so now what I'm trying to demonstrate, for example, if I do if I do label, then label for first name, label for first name. So I can just say what? First name. After all, the user will not see whatever I have in the angle bracket or the tag. Then I will write it in full here. Let's say first name. Okay, so if I go back to the front end, you can see that what? I have just created the first name. Now, the intention is that the users are to input their first name. So you have not provided a box that they will use to supply the first name, like this. So how do you provide that box? You come in here and say inputs. Inputs is for creating those boxes, and then the type will be text due to the kind of data you want to use it to receive from the users. Now, I would like to also give it name because for PHP to process any of this input to the backend database, there must be a name attribute. So it is the name attribute that the PHP will use as a criteria to know that this particular information is meant to be processed to the backend. So the name should correspond with what you are using here. It is not compulsory that the name should correspond with what you use as your label, but I normally use these standards in order to remind myself. So now, if I want this to be a compulsory field, I want them to must supply this information before the form can be submitted. So that is what we call HTML form input validation. We are making it compulsory. So what I will do, I will just come here. I will just say what? Require, which means that what? It must be supplied before the form can submit its data to the backend database. So what I will simply do is also specify by using span tag here and then put the asterisk here so that they will go back to the front end. I want to see this asterisk. I'm going to use my CSS data to convert it. red shape so that they will know that compulsory. Once the user sees it, he or she knows that this input must fill. The attempt not by its form by
Sorry, I can't hear you well, please.
carrying
I can't hear you well, please.
of see, get. So, like I was trying to why I added this asterisk is to tell the user that this input is a must fill what input. They must fill it. Otherwise, the form will not submit. So now if I create another one, if I create another label for middle name, I'll say what M name. Then I come here and say middle name. If I go to the front end, you can see that. Let me add the input tag here. Input type is still text. Then I'll add the name attribute just to by PHP that this input should also be processed to the backend database. Then I will take this name as the end what so the
Okay,
end
I'm coming.
name.
Oh, okay, I'm coming. Sorry. Yes, I have to answer.
So like I was better. Can you hear me better? All right, so like I was trying to explain, let's check the front end, what we have designed so far. Now, these two inputs are displayed in line. In other words, on the same line. Now, if I want this to come down, that is block. So how do I do that? Now, the reason why both of them are displaying in line because both the input and the label that generated them, they are inline elements. And like we have established before, inline element will always display on the same line once they find space. Now, I want my form structure the way that display the input in the block form. So to do that is to convert the inline elements to block elements by wrapping them in the block element like div and any other block element. So I'll simply come here and do something like this after the legend. So I'll say div, then I will remove this section called X to cut it. Then I am wrapping both this and this in the div. So come down and put it, which means that this div is grouping two elements. Now the same thing, I'll come here and open another div. So the idea is to make all of them display block instead of what inline. Tick off this, then paste here. So if I go back to the front end, see that what they are now displaying what block instead of what horizontal was inline. You understand that?
Yeah.
Good. So it means that if you don't want them to display block, there is no need of adding the IP. Just let them display IP. So going forward,
Sorry, sir. So, I, I can't hear you well.
okay, you
I
cannot.
think they not good.
Okay, the network is not very good. So, like I was trying to design, now I want to add more inputs, add more. The last last this time around. Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so let me see if it's good, and then just want us to finish the form design tonight. So tomorrow we'll look at the CSS aspect of it. Okay, so I wanted to create another field which is for last name. So I'll start with div this time around, open it up, then type my label for early name, which is last name. Then I will express it full here, last name. Then input text type, and then add name as well. Then name. So if I go back to the front end, so I've added what? Additional what? Input. So I'll go outside this div. So each div in this case is enveloping the label and the input just to make them display block. So I'll come back here, div again, expand it, start. Can you hear me now? Are you still here? Continue. All right. So like I was saying, I'll create another div. I want to use this for dates. So I'll say label for dates. Then type date in full here, date. Then input. Network is not stable today. Then here, the input type is going to change from text to date because I want to generate a date picker calendar that they will just pick. So I'll say the name is date as well. So if I go back to the front end, you can see that what you have automatically created what date. So once they click, they will just fill. So they don't need to type the dates manually themselves. So you're trying to make the job easy for them. I come out here and then I want to create for gender. So another div. I'll say label for let's say gender. Label for gender. Then I'll just say gender here. Okay, so I will put break here because I'm going to add multiple input inside this div and I want them to display block. Then here I will say the first input is for collecting. Now, when you are creating your form and you want to provide options, and out of the option, they are to pick only one, then you have to use type attribute radio. You change to what? Type attribute radio, which means you want to give them multiple options out of which they can pick only one. That is the meaning. Now here I'll say value should be male, and then I'll say name should be gender. Then I'll want them to check. I'll say checked. They come out here and say what? Male. And then add break so that it will display block. So if I go there, you see it here. So this is how to create options. Now I will just copy the whole of this line. Control C, come in here, paste. I'm pasting additional 2. Then I will just change here. Here remain the same thing, radio. Value, this one change to female. Then here remain name, gender. Here we change to female. Then here remain radio. Here change to order. So you are either female, male, or order. So I'll just say order. Then here will also change to what? Order. So if I go to the front end, you can see that what? I have 3 of them. So I can only pick one out of, no matter how much they are, you can only pick one. That is when to use radio. Are you getting it? Do you understand that? I need a response.
Yeah, understand it.
Okay, so now the next thing I want to create is states. For example, I want to create date, state rather, so I'll say label for state. And I don't want them to type the states manually, so I can as well give them a text box to type the date, but to make it look more professional, I will say select. So select is a tag. Select, then the name is states. Then I'll open it up. So I want to create options. I will use a tag called option. So the first one is choose states. So this one I will just put what? Sorry, this one will not have a value. So I'll put it here. It doesn't have value because this one is just to guide them, for them to know what they are to choose. So if I go to the page now, you see that what? By default, when they get to the page, they will just say choose page, choose state. So they will be guided that, oh, let me click here so that I can pick one of the states. So you now start creating option for the actual values. So here, let's say what? Abia. That's for these are Nigeria states. I don't know your state in Mozambique. So I'll say what? Abia. And then I'll do another option. Option, let's say Delta. Then I'll put the description here also, Delta. So if you come back here, you see that what? If you click here, you see the drop down of what? The 2 states we have mentioned so far. So you continue like that, except you use an API. So there are API code that can actually give you all the states, all the local government in a country. So every country have an API. So you can buy the API code, then you just add it. You don't need to write all the states manually. But let me just add more so that we go to the next one. Let me add Lagos. Lagos State. Let's say Lagos. Okay, so I'm done with this. So let me close this section. Now come outside the div. So let's say I want to collect their password, for example. So this contact does not need password, but just for you to know how to create password input. So I will just say label for pass. Then come in here and write it in full. Password. Okay, so the input type will now be password. Now be password. And then I would like PHP to process it to the backend database. Therefore, I supply the name as well. So let's say the name is pass. So if you go back to the front end, you see that, well, if you type your password, it's not going to be visible because that is encrypted data. Are you still following?
Yeah, getting it.
All right. So now I don't need this password in my contact form. This password will come in probably under registration form design. But I just wanted us to know how you can create password input. So I will just change it to something else. So let's say I want to collect, okay, let me still add it. Let me still leave it for now. Can remove it later. So label for, I want to collect their passport as their photograph. So I will say what? Photo. Then express it in full. Let's say. Then the input type is file. It's file. Anything that has to do with media, video, audio, picture, you want to process in your form. The type should be file. Then because I want PHP to also send it to the back-end database, so I'll just say photo. So if I go back to the front end, you see that what it creates what this, so the user can click and load in their image while filling the form. Are you following?
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing is div. I want to collect probably their educational background. Okay. So I'll say label for education. Education. Then here I'll break it because I'm going to add multiple. So I'll say input. Input type will be checkbox. Checkbox is where you can pick more than one. Somebody can have SSCE, somebody can have BSc, somebody can have HND. That is 3 qualification. So that is why we are using checkbox as against what? Radio. Radio is when out of the option provided, they can only choose one. While checkbox can be used to allow them to choose more than one. So I'll also put the name. I'll say education. And value. So value. This one is SSC. Okay, so I need to also show that it should be checked and then write the SSCE. Then put what? Break as well. So I'll copy the whole of this line, Control C, and then let me paste like 3. So checkbox, education. This is where we will change it. Here we can be BSc or HND. Here we also change to HND. Then here remain the same. Here change to, let's say, BSc. Here also BSc. So if I go to the front here, you notice that what? Somebody can check 2 things at the same time, or even take all. Take all. So we are gradually populating our form with different elements. Now, another thing I want to show us is email. I want to collect the person's email. So label for email. Label for email. Email. The input. Input is email. So this will also have a way of validating it. So if it does not have the @ it will not work. So email. So if I go to the front end, you see it here, email. Try typing any email without the @ without this, because it is that @ it will use to validate it. So in as much we are using the email as this. Now, if I want to collect their age, div label for age, label for age, then I'll come here, input type. Text will now be number. This is another input type. And then I can specify the minimum age. Anybody that want to fill this form should not be less than 18 years and should not be maximum, should not be more than 40 years. So nobody, if anybody try to fill this form that is not within this minimum and maximum, it will throw an error. So if I click here, I can use it to increase. You can see that once I get to 30, it's no longer increasing. No longer increasing because that was the maximum. If I reduce now to 18, I think I put 18, it's not also what? Reducing, because that is the minimum and this was the maximum. Are you getting it? So this is how to set age limit to individuals that will fill the form. I just want to know if you are following. Hope you are still following.
Yeah.
All right. So now the next one is
Getting it.
okay. So the next one, let's say which other input type I've not used. Okay, I think I've used all of them. Now, if I want to submit this form, I'll create a div. This is the last input. Then I would like to class this. I'll class this because this div is going to hold all my buttons. So I'll say all the buttons in this div. So the first one is input for resetting. So I'll change here to reset. And these ones are not going to process anything to the back end. So I would like them to, if somebody cannot understand what is reset, I would say, okay, it should be cancel. Be cancel. So that is the button. Then another, the last, your submit button should always be the last one. This one should be submit. Should be submit. And then if somebody will not understand what is submit, I will just say what? Maybe register or I think submit is a contact form. So let's leave the value. So if I come here now, look up, I think I was trying to create a value there, which I did not end up creating. So let me remove it. So if somebody come here now and try to click on submit, you can see this place is what saying that you must, because that was what we programmed. So until they fill this, this is compulsory. Okay, so let's say the person start filling Prosper, Eloho, let's say Peter, and then pick a date. Then after some point, the person had discovered that, I made a lot of mistake. How do I clear everything at once to avoid me coming into those boxes one after the other and begin to delete? I'll just click on cancel. So that cancel will just clear everything and allow me to start afresh. That is the purpose of this. So in our next class, we are going to, which is tomorrow, what I'm going to focus on is the styling of this form, how we can beautify it so that it can look more user-friendly. So your assignment is for you to give me something like this before tomorrow section. Are you with me? Did you get that?